we can get it started. Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. I'm Mara. I'm an incoming PM at Microsoft and a leader of skills development within APMC. And as you all know already, we have two key offerings that I'm gonna reiterate now within APMC. So we're here for you to offer you skills development. We are a community of APMC, so we offer you PM skills lab such as this one, book club events, and interview prep sessions to help you become the best PM. And on the other side, we offer you some networking opportunities, both with other APMs within the community. We try to make it as valuable for you to be here with us, but also with mentors, senior PMs from the big tech companies, and not only. So today we have Mayank here with us, who's a product manager lead at Facebook, and he's going to talk a bit about crisis management as a PM, or the way he likes to call it, product management when shit hits the fan. He's going to talk for about 30 minutes about his topic. Then we're going to do 20 minutes of Q&A, so get your questions ready. We're going to have Slido. You can ask all your questions at the link in the chat. And whenever you want to interact with Mayank, feel free to unmute yourself and say whatever you have to say. Awesome. So Mayank, I'm going to hand it off to you. Thanks for being here with us.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, since you are joining from all parts of the world. So I think the way I would like to structure my 30 minutes would be a quick intro, start with that. And then I want to ask you guys a question about crisis. So we'll go there for maybe 5 minutes between the first two questions, and then talk about what I have learned so far as a PM during crisis management, during a crisis, how I have managed it, and share some of my learnings, which I would make it a 5-point framework for all of us, which you guys should be using it and sort of use it in your daily work. And talk about your story maybe in a couple of weeks' time to come back and tell us how have you used that. So cool. So quick intro. I'm a PM at PM lead at Facebook. I lead one of the marketplace verticals at Facebook Marketplace here in California. And before this, primarily my work has been around marketplaces, working for large companies like eBay or now Uber, and some startups as well. So crisis is common. Like, it's a thing that happens in our life as a product manager very often. And there are different ways to look at it. So before I go into product management, I would like to ask, let's say three of you, any three can just unmute and answer that. First three gets to answer. What do you think is crisis? Or what does a crisis mean to you when you think about a problem or a crisis in your personal life or professional life? Just anyone who wants to volunteer to answer. I want to hear your thoughts first before I jump in.
Anything which is unexpected.
Anything which is unexpected. Awesome. Thank you. Who was that? Your name and
yeah, my name is Miral Dalal. I'm like Northeastern graduate student and aspiring.
Awesome. Brilliant. Thank you, Miral. So Miral says anything that is unexpected. That's quite true. That is true. Unexpected could be a crisis. Sure. What else?
Just to add on to what Miral mentioned, unexpected with huge consequences. That's when.
Yes. I love it. Unexpected surprise is great in a positive way, but unexpected with a problem is bad. So good. I think good addition there. Who is this? Who do mention your name?
Keshav.
Yeah. Keshav, thanks, man. Oh, Keshav, yeah. Okay, cool. Awesome. Who else? What else?
I think it could be expected too. For example, in this global pandemic, maybe it is a little bit expected that the businesses would go through some level of crisis. When it started, maybe Walmart, or not Walmart, UPS or some companies already knew there's going to be a crisis happening, but it's just something big with a big business impact. And this is Arunima.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. So yeah, it was preempted, but it's still a crisis. Sure. Makes sense. I want to keep it conversational. So guys, keep chatting. Let's pick two more, and then I'll go what I think about crisis when I think about it. So let's get two more. So who wants to go next?
Okay, Chiranjeevi here.
Yeah.
So whenever I think of a crisis, let's say in terms of product management, when something is affecting the user directly, let's say some service is going to fail abruptly and tons of users are not able to use it. And maybe that leads to a lot of business losses. So that might be a crisis on a large scale is what I feel.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. We'll take one more and then I'll jump
go
into
next.
my random thoughts. David, go for it.
I perceive a crisis to be a sudden event that poses a significant business threat that needs to be resolved in a timely fashion.
Okay, sounds good. That's great. It's a very deterministic answer. So thank you. I think you prepared for the first 3 minutes, then answered. So great answer there. So cool. So what I'll do now is we got different definitions of crisis: unexpected event, expected but large impact, something that has to resolve within a certain time frame. So it is not a crisis, but because of the time frame, it makes it a crisis. I get it. So great ideas, good thinking on crisis. But whatever we're hearing is it's a problem. Like it's something wrong that's happening, right? That's what I'm getting from people. So I will make it conversational again as we move forward. So what I'll do now is I'll tell you what I think about crisis. So what is crisis from my lens? I think of crisis as a big opportunity. It's huge opportunity. When you see a problem, you want to solve it, right? And the moment you come out of it, that's what makes you a strong leader. So in my definition of crisis, I think it's a set of constraints put around. And that's what, David, you mentioned, time is a constraint. As Aruna mentioned, it could be sense of scale of the problem. So whatever it is, it's a set of constraints that are put around a problem. So that's one definition, one aspect or dimension of crisis. The other is crisis will also sometimes push you to a sense of urgency, right? That's a time constraint. But that also results in innovation. So sometimes it's an expected / artificially created urgency, which some people might think crisis, but it's also a way to pressure test people and see, can they try new things and try new ideas? Or maybe it's organic like COVID-19, where it just happened. We are not prepared for it. But as we are into it, we are now living in that constraints and innovating. So that's number 2, which is crisis is urgency, which might be leading to some innovation. And I think crisis for me, the third thing is, which is again very orthogonal to what we think crisis is. Crisis makes strong teams. So whenever I'm in a crisis, I feel I go to people, I go to the entire team, and we are more in touch with each other. We talk to each other more, and I feel at that moment is when the strongest teams are built. So me, crisis are these 3 things. One is set of constraints. Other is urgency, creating innovation. And the third one is primarily about building very strong teams during that time. So completing that together is what I see a crisis when I think about crisis as a product manager / product leader. Any feedback, any questions on that? No, cool, awesome. Let's keep going. So what do we do as a PM when we see a crisis? What do I do when I see a crisis? So I think it's a lot to do with the mindset you are in. It's really a lot of work that we do every day in our life is not written in any books. It's your reaction to a problem. It's your reaction to a meeting you are in. It's a reaction to a story told to you by a user researcher, or by somebody, or by data scientists when you read a note by someone to understand the insights of a product. So again, it's the mindset you go within. For me, I am on the very optimist side of the world, where when I see something, I want to find out the best value out of it. Instead of panicking, I would see, oh man, if we solve this, what happens? Versus, oh my God, we are fucked. So I think that's a different way of looking at that. The mindset is very important. And it's very easy to sit here and say all this, the mindset is important. But when you are in that room and you get an email at night at, 3 a.m. in the morning, your number of users of your product, daily active, has been trending down. And yes, yesterday it was down by 30%. That is shit hitting the fan. That is a crisis moment for you. At that moment, the instinctive reaction is, oh my God, what now? So I think the whole session today is about how to not think about what now and go with a 5-step process to ensure that you can make crisis management more deterministic. So you are in control of your product, you're in control of your team, and also you can stand as a leader who can emerge out of the crisis unscathed. Make sense? Yeah. Okay. So let me talk about that was a little bit of the mindset that let's be positive when we see a crisis, and I'll give you 5 points. Again, 5 points. They'll help you navigate through the crisis. Even if you take one of them, I'm telling you, you'll be better than where you are right now in terms of execution during a crisis time. Okay. So what mindset I go with is never let a good crisis go into waste. Like whenever you see a crisis, think about it as an opportunity for yourself, for your team. Don't panic. It's okay. Shit happens. It'll happen every day. Sometimes it can happen for months. But the point here is you have to stand up as a leader at that time and navigate the way and move forward. So think of crisis as an opportunity from a mindset perspective. Cool. That's like the mindset part of the story. The foundation of handling any crisis is your mindset. If you are on the defense, you'll always play the defensive game. If you go on offense, which is basically thinking positive, getting ahead of it, you'll play a different game. You will know what's going on. You'll know what the next steps are. You may not know the final answer, but you will be seen as a leader who knows where the team is heading. And that's what we want to talk about in the 5 points. How does a PM act as a leader during a time of crisis and move on? Cool. Okay. So first, mindset is the biggest foundation. Let's focus on that. Be positive. Think of it as an opportunity. Any questions here?
I'll add one thing really quick. I was talking to my manager a couple of weeks ago about this, and a similar thing came up where I was kind of thinking about what you were saying without actually articulating it, in the sense of when something negative is happening, I always kind of think of it as like, oh, this is my next talking point in my next interview, like somewhere else. Like, this is how I'm going to be like, oh, like this was happening, and then I chose to do this, and then this impact happened on the business. So I think it's great to hear that it's an actual tactic that we can use, because I was thinking about it before. Yeah,
very well said. And you know, the irony is I got a ping this morning from one of my friends who's a director of engineering in one of the large companies in the Bay Area. And he's like, I just had a crisis and I want to motivate the team. I had an issue and they are really down. The morale is down. How do I lift it up? I just gave him that line, which was, never let a good crisis go into waste. So it's a big thing. I mean, and just few lines and the narrative can lift the team, and that's also part of your job. You don't have to solve every problem. You have to solve the problem of morale at this time, which can come with the mindset you create within the team. So that's the foundation. So let's start there. Thanks, David, for sharing that. Okay, cool. I'll move on to the framework now. So again, 5 points that I have learned has helped me navigate during crisis. And I push you all to not panic at that time and use at least one of these. And I'm telling you, it'll be way better than where you are right now, or what you would have done at that time. And if you know them, repeat them. Keep practicing it more going forward. Yeah. Okay. The first one is, as a PM, as a product leader of your feature, your product, your geography, whatever you are leading, right? Your bug, it can be as small as a bug. It's fine. You have to understand the problem better than anybody else. And you need to have the holistic perspective, which means the first step is understand the problem. So go deep into it, understand the data, understand who are impacted, which platform it was, when it started, when it ended, or is it still continuing? Is it seasonality? Ask all the questions you can imagine that can come up with it, right? So if you don't know what you're solving for, you will solve for the wrong things. And that's what we all should not do, which is solve for the wrong problem. So that's number one, understand the problem better, right? So tell you what may happen here. So what happens during crisis in reality is, it's very easy to say, understand the problem, like it's theory, it's school, it's all nice. Yeah, sure. You're in a Zen mode and you can say these things. But when you are in the crisis, what happens is, so it happened to us once, we launched, I work on real estate marketplace, so renting out homes through Facebook across all of our markets in marketplace here, Facebook. So what happened with us is our users were connecting or sending what we call leads. So you see a home on Facebook Marketplace, you say, I want to see this home, or is it available? You start a conversation, it submits a form, it goes to somebody who is supposed to respond back to you. It could be a business, it could be a user. And what we saw was that night, somehow, for 2 days, somehow the number of such leads being sent went down significantly. And yeah, I can say that keep you calm, understand the problem. We were down by 20%, which is insane. It's a crazy number. It wasn't like, it had a big business impact for our businesses on our platform. So it's very easy to say, go understand, but the team was panicking. The people who manage those businesses to connect with them, we have a partnerships team who talk to them. They were panicking. The businesses were panicking. So all the emails you get, all the pings you get is all negative. Like, what the fuck, what the fuck, what the fuck. Okay. So you can keep your calm and say, no worries, keep going, but it's not instinctively you want to react to it. And at this moment, what happens is you start getting solutions from people around you. Oh, try this, try that. This could be the problem. It's possible that's broken. What we have to do as PM is shield ourselves from ideas or solution ideas. Ideas have no value unless they're in the context of a real data or a problem. And because we haven't done our understand work, my job at that time was, guys, thank you, but let's first answer A, B, C questions. So understanding and pushing for understanding the problem is a part of the process of a crisis management. And that's the most important thing we should start with. So pause everything, push the team along with yourself to understand the problem better. Yeah. So where do you start? And this is a classic question of where does understand start? Understand is pretty straightforward in the beginning. You look at your internal data, you look at your product, you look at the entire funnel. I mean, you know your product better than me. So you go and do the deep dive from the basics, from the foundation. Where is it broken? Is it because people are not coming to the platform? Is our demand funnel broken? Is it our down funnel down funnel product broken? Is it an OS problem? The classic execution interview question we answer, right, to debug a problem. So go deep, actually do it in the real life. And if you don't know how to look at the data, bring other people in and have a deep understanding of the problem. That's the most important thing. Yeah, makes sense? So we did that for this problem. We went deeper and deeper and deeper. And what we found out was we were not surfacing enough number of homes to people to see and then click and then sort of send the lead to the business or the user who's trying to rent out the apartment. So again, once you know the problem, things are in control. Your day is a normal day. You get up in the morning, you know what the problem is. You create a bug or whatever, or involve the right team members, and they go and solve for it, and your life is good. Versus not understanding and reacting to every feedback you're getting from the team, or you coming up with your own ideas and trying to see if it sticks on the wall. Not the right approach. So it's step one of the 5-point framework: understand the problem better, look at the internal data first. Yeah, and then also external data if required. It could be seasonality, it could be competition, it could be internet provider, it could be iOS update by Apple, 10,000 things. But go in a structured manner, debug the problem and know the problem in depth. Any questions there? Cool. Okay, that's number one. Understand the problem better.
Hey, Mayank.
Yes, who's this?
This is Mayank as well.
Oh my God. Okay, go for it.
Kind of feels like talking to a wall, huh?
Yeah, a mirror. Yeah.
So could you just repeat that really quick? So understanding the problem. So you were talking about the root. We're just kind of jumping in the root cause analysis part of things, right? So totally. Basically, the top process is like when you look at it as a holistic approach and on a top layer, like what could go wrong? I mean, it could be, as you were saying, OS, or it could be like internal or external factors. Would you start with internal, or would you straight up go to external?
No, so I won't answer the question. I'll put it differently. start with what's the easiest. External cannot be the easiest. You don't know much about it. So start with internal first, right? So go that way. And my point again here is like, it's not about how you understand. It's about understanding it. It could be by bringing the team together and having a discussion together. It could be hopping on a call with the sales team if it's a SaaS product. It could be hopping on a call with someone who reported this as an issue. The how of the understand could be anything. But the step one is shield yourself and the team from noise. Focus on understanding. That's point one. Cool.
Yep.
Okay. Point number two. This is a classic. I mean, I faced this problem when I was very early in my career, and I face even now when I'm like sort of 6, 7 years, 8 years into my career. I sometimes feel I take it personally. I am supposed to solve this problem. It's freaking my product. It's not your product. It's your team's product. You are one of the leads of the product, maybe a feature lead of the product. And so don't take it on you. It's on the team. And our goal is to bring the team together and have a shared understanding of the product. When you have the shared understanding, so number one was understanding. So once you have the shared understanding within the team, the solutions will come much faster. Because you may not have all the solutions, because we don't know everything. We're just a glue. PMs are just a glue, and plus we lead them forward, sure, with some strategy, narratives, etc., etc. So step two is bring the team together and sharing the knowledge that we have and getting the help. So what we call as a huddle in the regular regular day-to-day work, we can call it like we call it a room, get lunch for them and bring them together and share what we know about the problem and the open questions we have. And you'll see ideas will come from everywhere. I mean, that's the fun part. And when we say bring the team together, it does not mean only engineers and the PM in the room. What this means is you bring the designer, you bring the researcher, you bring the partnership/ops team or sales team, one from each domain, because it's the breadth that will help you solve the problem quicker versus the depth. Because if the first understand/root cause analysis, as the other Mayank was saying, did not let you find the answer, it means you need a better net, you need a bigger, wider net in terms of understanding the problem from different angles. And I think bringing the team together has always helped. I'll give you a good example of that. This was, so we launched our product in India. And we were testing it in India. So not launch, but for a very small percentage. So if you think about finding a home on Marketplace or any product like that, the core is the address or how you search for a location, right? Because that's the most important thing. And then the filters are very important. What you filter by, like you filter by number of bed, bath, etc., etc. So we launched in India, testing in India. What we found was people were not using the product. Like they were not able to find the homes which they wanted to find. And they were opening the app and it was sort of, again, they're going back. So they were not engaging with the product. And we didn't know why it was happening. We went back and we saw that somehow our location data wasn't accurate. So whatever was written in the address of the home, so we need to understand work, our geocoder could not understand or decode what is a lat long for that address. So our understanding was flawed. We couldn't show the home on the map because we didn't understand the address well. So our understanding was solid. Good. We know the problem. But how do we solve it? It's a problem which we can't solve because the geocoder is dumb. Dumb as in for India, it doesn't know the address. We then had a huddle and we brought in the Asia Pacific partnerships team into it, and they got some insight from the region. And what we learned was Indian addresses cannot be done reverse geocoded into a lat long by our geocoder. We have to come up with a new way because the addresses doesn't have a format. The addresses are like, let's say, Fortis Hospital behind the old mango tree, New Delhi. I mean, Google has invested billions of dollars to understand this context well, but our geocoder will not understand that. So how do you solve this mango tree problem now? So one, because we brought the team together, we could understand what was causing the problem. The first step of understanding helped us figuring out the problem, but what was causing it was a nuanced regional understanding, which we got from the region. So again, bringing the team together helps you go deeper into the problem or even closer to the solution. So step 2 is once you know, once you have enough understanding, bring the team together and share with them, and suddenly things will start moving forward. Cool. Makes sense? Any questions there? No? Okay. Cool. So again, this third one out of the 5, two are the first 2 were understand the issue, second is bring the team together, and the third one is a real story that will happen in every scenario, whether it'll come from your engineering team, from your peers, from your manager, from your manager's manager, from your leadership. You'll get emails from everywhere. And the question is, it may happen, depends upon the people around you, but it definitely happens with some of the people around you. Why did this happen? Why did the product break? This is when you are in actual zone of fixing the problem or understanding the problem. People asking you, why did this happen? So how would you react to it? Like, let me ask this question to all of you, and I'll take 2 answers. So how would you react to this when, let's say, the VP of product asks you this question, or your manager, hey, why did this happen? Anyone who wants to answer this?
I might start by saying a hypothesis and mentioning that we're still in the process of investigating.
Yeah, I think this is the right thing. I think he nailed the answer, so I'll not go to the second person. The point here is there'll be a lot of people who will ask this question, why the hell this happened, which means it should not have happened. What's happened? It's like a different tone. And the other are curious people. Oh, why does this happen? Tell me more about the problem. So in any case, the goal is to shield the team from the noise first. This is noise. This is none of the team's job to answer. It's your job to sort of shield the team from this and manage expectations. So if anyone wants to know why the hell this happened, the answer is we are in the execution mode. We are trying to understand the problem as he mentioned, and just focus on the understand work and making progress. And you can share the next update will come on this specific date and time. Wait for it, or share one line about what you know, because one, you don't know why the hell this happened because you're still in the mode of understanding. Second, whatever you say will change tomorrow. So you can only say, I have learned so much. So you cannot say that you know everything about it because you don't. So go with that approach. And generally what happens is when you get an email or communication from somebody higher up, the tendency is to give them what you know, or is to react quickly on what they're saying. But the right approach here is, one, shield the team if the team is being exposed to it so they can do the job right, and keep this why conversation for the retrospective. So at the end, you can come back and talk about the entire story, but in the beginning, try to avoid conversations around why the hell this happened and how to avoid. So that's the part where shield the team from noise, and all these questions you get, take it and manage the expectation accordingly by pushing it to the end of the analysis / your deep dive phase, or answer based on what you know and you can handle it. Yeah, sounds good. The next important thing that we see in our current operations are, as we're growing as a team, is the good news takes time to spread. That's okay. The bad news, they spread really, really fast. So the moment it's your 2-3 days into the problem or a crisis, suddenly it'll start spreading to more people, more leadership, and you get more questions and coming in, and they're more curious now every day. What's happening? So the third point I mentioned, shielding the team. After a point, the shielding will not happen unless you are proactive as a product leader. Like, you have to go and stand there and say, here is the update. Here's what happened yesterday. Here's what our approach, here's what we know about the problem. Here are 3 steps we're taking to solve it, and 2 steps to understand it better. Or rather, we have cornered the problem. We're solving it for 20% of the users, and for the others, we're still exploring. So whatever your update is, very crisply update, start a regular update cadence. It could be daily. It could be every 6 hours. It could be weekly based on the severity and the scope of the problem. If Facebook is down, it's an hourly update. Or I don't know, it's maybe Zuck is in the room. But if it is, let's say a feature is down for a small feature is down, it could be a weekly update. But the fact is, communication is the key. And you've got to be proactive about it. You don't want to play defense there. When somebody asks you, only then you go and talk about it. They may ask you still if you post an update, but the point is, if you already had the post ready and you've posted somewhere or there's an email out, you can take a screenshot, boom, hey dude, I already emailed you, didn't read it, or whatever it is. But that shows that you have things in control. You know where you're headed. You may not know the answer. Nobody knows the answer in the beginning, but you know how to navigate the team forward, and there's a team working behind it, and there's a plan of action going on. And the next update will be on X date, so they know what the expectation is from the team as they make progress. So crisis is great to get all the visibility for the team as well, because then people are thinking about you, talking about you. And at the end, obviously, you may end up solving the problem, may not end up solving the problem, but people who are reading them or those notes or those updates, they know that you know how to navigate the problem. And that's what is important. Progress is important. Journey is important. End result, important. But did you do the right thing? And if you did, result can be subjective, right? It depends upon what happened. I mean, if Android broke for some reason, you cannot do anything about it. You can just go and make sure you do your job right, and when Android will fix that in 2 days, your thing will be fixed. So, but the fact you communicated, the fact you made sure that it was well managed within the team, you're good. So communication is the fourth point. So I'll repeat the first one. The first one is understand the issue. Second is bring the team together. Third is shield the team or the team members from noise. And the fourth one is communicate, communicate, communicate. Yeah, sounds good. Any questions, thoughts?
Yeah, I have a question about choosing stakeholders. So how do you decide whether you want to send the constant updates to your direct team members, and when do you decide to like loop in their managers or their managers' managers? Does it all just depend on the severity of the issue?
It's a fair question. I think that's you have to make the judgment call who are impacted. It's a pretty straightforward question. Who are impacted? And then push yourself a bit further. Who else could be impacted? So those are two questions you want to answer. And based on that, you can select your audience. We use Workplace for Facebook within Facebook. So for us, there are multiple groups based on the audiences. So I pick the group that has the relevant audience and post my updates there, or the engineering manager will post the update there. So that's how we operate. Like it's your call primarily. Yeah. The other thing is also like, you don't have to update always, like give the EM the ability to update, maybe the data scientist, if it's a very data problem. So I think it's also having the shared ownership of the problem versus you being the point of contact or the person who is sharing all the updates. Or you can divide and conquer. Today you have done, the next somebody else can do. So my point is like, pick your audience by yourself, but based on your problem, but also leverage others as you move forward.
I have a quick question,
yes.
Mayank. Rachit here, by the way.
Hi, Rachit.
Yeah. So I was just wondering, I'm just curious, like, how did you solve the address problem? If you could just give like a brief thing, because I think it's a pretty interesting problem and like obviously pretty unique, and I'm glad you brought it up as an example, but I'm just curious.
Okay, cool. So his head is stuck at that problem. Okay, I'll tell you the answer, no problem. So I think the solution is, again, not important because the problem was very important. But still, if I have to share the solution, the first step is it's a very common use case. It's nothing new. It's not an AR, VR use case within a niche that we don't understand. It's a common use case. So we didn't go and reinvent the wheel. We in fact, the person who was in APAC, based out of Singapore, but also Health India, she came up with a very nice analysis of what are other players doing in the market. So It's pretty straightforward. Like, you know what they're doing. And what they were doing is they said, write the address. So they write the address and they let the user pick where to drop the pin. Cool. Very simple, easy Indian solution to a problem, which is easy and just do it. So one, it helps you, the user is in the control of where the home is. And second, you get better in understanding the mapping of address to a geocode in the long run, like way long run. Like let's say 5 years from now, we'll have a lot of address and we have to understand it better. So I think, again, leverage others to understand the problem and they will help you understand the solution also. Cool. So that was the answer to the solution. Yeah. Awesome. So any other thoughts on that? On not on the mango tree problem, but generally on the framework of communications and showing progress. Okay, cool. So I'll add one more point on communication. It's important to, so let's say you take this point and say, okay, I'll go back now and I want to use this in my next crisis. Okay, that's like a thinking. Now, communication can also backfire. In my early days, I think with Marketplace maybe, I was giving too much details in my story, and nobody was reading it. Like it was freaking 1-page update. Nobody cares about 1-page update. Nobody's going to read everything. So I think then we started. I mean, obviously there was one update, and then second was pretty good. We had like 3 bullet points: what went wrong, where are we today with it, and steps taken next. So the moment you structure your updates and keep it very concise, based on what the people want to hear, it will seem that, again, this person can handle a crisis, and the updates will be very seamless and self-explanatory. Otherwise, you'll get pings from people saying, what is this? What is that? There shouldn't be follow-ups. There could be 1 or follow-ups, but you shouldn't get 10 follow-ups from your update. So have a format which is a little more TLDR based, like a summary, ABC, 3 points in the opening of the entire update, and then the details. So focus on the written communication more in this piece, specifically on being very, think of it as writing a comprehension versus being very comprehensive. So write the comprehension there and don't think about it has to be complete or holistic. It should give a good picture of the problem. So for instance, to take an example of the mango tree problem. So I would say the problem started on this state and we have identified the gap, the issue. Number 2, the fix will go out on X date and the next update will come on blah, whatever, Y date. Read below for details. That's it. Nobody cares about how you found it, who was the person reported. If they care, they can click on the link and go to your work document. But focusing on the update and being precise on what people care about will really help navigate the crisis easily. Cool. Okay. So if you do these things, the 4 things, 5th, I'm coming in a bit, understanding the issue. Now it'll make you confident that you know the game now. Nobody can come and ask you random questions because you know what is a real problem or the situation. Team knows what's going on with the second point of bringing the team together. So if the team is asked a question, they should be able to answer. Team being the relevant people. I mean, if it's a problem in, let's say for us, it's a user side problem, there's no point bringing engineers from other growth part of the product. So basically having the shared learning within the team that's relevant. And since you're shielding the team from noise, the team will respect you. So now there's a positive vibe among the team that it's a problem, but we are headed in the right direction. They feel good. There's less stress compared to what may have happened. And plus the leadership also knows what you're doing because you're communicating right. So this sets a good framework of how to navigate, right? And at the end, you may come up with a solution and it's good. It's done. Awesome. Now, what you want to also do is, so this shows that you emerged as a leader, you did the right things and you solved the problem. So yes, an opportunity, crisis was an opportunity and you leverage that to show that your team can navigate problems and move forward. Fantastic. But now we should answer and think about how can this not repeat? Very important. Problems should not repeat, Same with us, like when we're studying, we make a mistake. Mistakes, we should avoid repeating the mistakes. And in its personal trait, it's easy to fix because you're talking to yourself and writing down and fixing it. But when it's the team, you have to make sure the team is getting better. The DNA of the team is getting better, and they're learning, right? So the fifth point is about that. Do a good structured retrospective. Very important. Crisis management is not complete unless you focus on that. Okay, cool. So I think that's pretty much in terms of the 5 points I have. I will post it if it's helpful. If not, just it's pretty simple. Understand the issue, bring the team together, shield the team members from noise that's coming along, communicate broadly to show progress, be very precise there, and at the end, do the retrospective. That'll help your team get better and also and never blame people. It's not about blaming them. It's more about learning how can you be better and move forward in the retrospective. If somebody's blaming some team, you are the one who'll step in and say, just tell us what you have observed. It's not about the people. It's about the observation, what went right, what could have been done better, and moving on. Cool. And as young PMs, trust me, this structure will help a lot. Try it and see the results. Share it with us, write a post about it, tag APMC there. And I think this will be a good exercise for all of us. Okay, I'll pause here and open up for questions. Mara, do you want to take over for the questions curation?
Awesome. Thanks so much, Mayank. We're going to go over to the questions on Slido. Guys, don't forget to ask all your questions there. We're going to have the link posted here in the chat again. Krishna, do you want to share the Slido questions so that we can go over?
Ami, do you want to do it? I don't have the admin panel opened up right now.
I can, and meanwhile I can start asking the most voted question. Here we have from Agonima. So what are some impressive crisis reactions from Facebook RPMs? What can young PMs do better, since you generally are only responsible for a part of the product?
What are the impressive, okay, I'll read through them quickly. What are some impressive crisis reactions from every RPMs? What can young PMs do better, since we generally are only responsible for a part? I mean, so let me summarize. What are some impressive crisis reactions? Okay, cool.
So what has impressed you?
Sure. I got the question. Cool. Thank you for the question. See, as I said in the beginning of the talk, like there's nothing small or big. If you have a small feature that you're leading, but let's say you are owning compose button of Gmail, just making it up, right? It may sound like a small feature, but it's important, right? It's the one that helps open up the entire funnel for writing emails. The framework still remains the same. You have to show, can you deliver there or not? So I don't think it changes the way you operate.
I think my question revolved more on, let's say I'm a PM and I'm an APM working on, as you said, compose button on Gmail, but the crisis happened with Gmail, not specifically with my product, right?
Yeah. Sure.
What can I do better at, helping my team? And
Totally. So then again, I'll go back to the framework. So framework doesn't change. So go pick what works for you. Understand still works for you. Shared learning of bring the team together works for you. You have to let the team know that, listen, something happened. It's not our fault, but it'll impact us. And let's figure out the impact size of the problem. And at the end, the third thing that might be helpful is just communicate still with the relevant stakeholders. Guys, there was a problem that we have seen. It might impact our product by X%. We'll have the next update by this date. You are the owner of your feature. The problem may not be you or your team, but somebody else. But if it impacts you, you have to share an update. It's still a crisis, not driven by you, but somebody else. So you do have to follow the steps involved here. May not be all of them, but some of them based on your situations. But the communication piece still remains there. You got to communicate, and that makes a good PM. I mean, communication is a great example of a good RPM, if you want to ask Facebook concept, versus someone who's doing okay. So there are a lot of PMs who've done great communication, and has helped them a lot moving forward. And where the problem was not their problem, but somebody else impacting their product.
Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, and then the next question with 5 votes is, as a PM, how do you deliver the bad news to the team? And what are your top best practices?
Yeah.
This is from Aditya.
Aditya, what do you mean by bad? So bad news is very subjective. Like bad news could be, or good news could be Mayank is leaving the team. Or that could also be bad news. So it depends upon the situation, or it could be a solid bad news. So what do you mean by that? Yeah.
So what I meant was sometimes there might be a feature recall, or you might want to convey, like abandon a project or something like that.
Yeah. See, these are hard things and subjective. I will never say it's easy and there's no real recipe for this, right? But the anchors remain the same. You do something for a specific reason, right? Now the question is, how do you spin that reason so that it sounds relevant and realistic and the people understand that? For instance, let's say we had a read receipt feature for Gmail. I'm just picking on Gmail for a moment. We had a read receipt feature for a Gmail, and we spent 6 months to build it. And now it's a technological marvel, blah, 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 whatever. But for some reason, we had to not roll it back. And the reason was, the reason was, the research team found out was that 80% of people who use that feature, were not happy with that concept for some reason. So you have the anchor is users don't like it, okay? When you have the anchor as clear as that, you go with the anchor that we are building product here for people, right? If they come and tell you they don't like it, then you roll back the feature. So I think being true to the team and sharing the reasoning behind it helps a lot. And the follow-up is talking about the next steps. So if they're impacted, if it's an emotional impact, it's a different thing. You can talk about different other stuff to lift the morale. But if they're impacted on what will they work on next, I think you should address that in the room. So it could be a fast follow-up saying, here's why we're not doing it. However, the next step is we found new insight that this is what the people are looking for. And the team will now focus on this new feature, which will help us do X, Y, Z. So I feel balancing good and bad news has always been useful, and being true to the team, being more transparent to the team is useful.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Well, let's see. How you shade your team. Go ahead. What's the next question, Mara or?
I'm waiting. Yeah, just a second. As an early career PM, how do I convince my VP, director, stakeholders of my that one?
Okay, so as an early career PM, how do I convince my VP, director, stakeholders of my ideas and solutions, especially? Okay, it's always a learning process. I'm still learning. The point here is we should get better every time we do that. But the thing that has worked for me is this. Taking them together in the journey is important. So suddenly coming up with a new idea and pitching it to them may not help you. Like, that's not like, it's a new thing. Oh, so like, why are you telling me now? What's happening? So I think building the story slowly will always help. So step one is break down your story, whatever the story is, and start what I call, start selling it softly. Talk to people, get their feedback, who is not the VP, but people around the VP, because they have similar context. You can assume that. So meeting them one-on-one, getting the feedback. So whatever feedback you might be getting in the final review, you might get some of them or 80% of them beforehand now to make your deck / proposal better. So you can address those questions and make sure either you have an answer or you have changed your strategy to make sure it's rightly aligned in the direction the company is headed. So I think one-on-one interaction wherever possible before the final review or the big review is generally helpful, which I did not do earlier, but now I'm doing that a lot with my current job. So that's number one. And it may not be like directly reports to the VP. Whoever you have access to, they will know at least 1 point more than you. So go and talk to them and hone your proposal. So that's one. Second is similar concept, but a little different, is open up your proposal to your internal team, right? Get their feedback. Let them sort of play the devil's advocate there. And they will make your framing better. They will make your proposal better from finding the gaps in the proposal. So these are two things: feedback from both internal team and also some of the direct reports of the VP. These two. Third is with the VPs, I think the concept of a TLDR is always helpful. So start with that and just tell them, like, if you know what they're looking for, start with that. Give them what you have, and you know that it'll resonate with them, and straight away go to the discussion points and talking about what they should be seeing and commenting on, what feedback you want from them. Because generally what happens, it becomes a passive discussion, passive presentation where you go and say, ABC, here I want to X, Y, Z, and done. But what do you want from the VPs? What do you want from the execs in the room? So having a clear discussion point in your proposal will force them to think about your proposal and have a conversation, which means they're thinking about it. And you can know if they're on board or not on board. And if they're not on board, move on. In general, what I feel is I like to get more feedback from people, but there are people who want to nail the first review and make sure it's perfect. That's fine too. But the goal should be getting feedback and making it clear in your presentation that here are 3 things I want to get your feedback on. So yeah, to summarize, get informal feedback from initial team that is internal and closer to VPs. Second one was really being structured on your presentation and starting with TLDR. And the last one is have clear discussion points for the VPs. Should be fine. And honestly, at this stage in your career, do one of the reviews. Go fail there. It's okay. I've failed so many times. And I'll come back and feel sad about it. It's okay. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Even if they care, what can happen? They'll come back and give you feedback. Take the feedback and get better next time. But don't be afraid of doing it. I think that's like the first, like the most important thing. Freaking do it. Okay. All right.
No, great advice there. Definitely important to just like, figure out what adds value and then just go ahead, do it, fail now, fail it early.
Totally.
And like on that note, like, we have a great question that came in on what are the top 3 damage control actions that you do in response to a crisis before you start to look for the solution to fix it? And I know you talked about this briefly, like understand the problem. So are there any other
top 3? I think we have
3?
covered. See, this we have covered, right? Like this is exactly what the framework is about. I don't want to go deep into it because it's not about tactical ideas. It's about giving the high level framework and you guys decide what's right for you. If communication means sending out a press release to let the world know this has happened, well, it's your job. Like, I don't know the product, but my point is define the level of depth you want to go into each of the points we have talked about, but it doesn't change. I think I'll still go with those 5 and just follow that and it'll definitely help.
Awesome. So the next question, as you can see here, how do you shield your team from outside noise while communicating with stakeholders? This was my question because as you communicate with stakeholders, you automatically get ideas coming to the team from them. So how do you shield them while communicating with them?
See, it's a good question. It's a theoretical line to say, go shield the team from others, but how do you do that? Depends again, how big is the team, how big is the company, et cetera, et cetera. But let's say I'll assume for now, a mid-sized and large companies. It's large enough for you to post updates and communicate. I think the first one is what I have in the framework, communicate and have clear updates. So the moment you do that, proactive approach is that where you are reducing the number of questions and noise because you're now sending updates, right? That will definitely reduce the number of people reaching out to the team. That's number 1. Number 2 is if there will be some people who needs hand-holding, like around the team, who are very finicky and very picky about and very caring about the problem or the feature or the product. I'll call it caring rather. But they have traits where they'll come and poke you and ask you 10,000 questions. Take them one-on-one. Take them on a DM and chat with them. If it's not helping, hop on a call with them. I mean, now hop on a call with them. Otherwise, go meet them. Because see, if a VP is unhappy for some reason, they're not unhappy because it's personal. They're unhappy because they don't understand what you're doing or they don't understand your point of view. And it will create noise and churn. So taking the person one-on-one and having a discussion with them, again, in the same structured format, which we discussed, how you should update, will help a lot. And I didn't do that for a long time. So early in your career, don't be scared. Like APM, nothing to lose. You can make 1,000 mistakes and they'll still say you're learning, right? So try it and they will appreciate it. In fact, that you actually reached out and you helped them understand the problem better. So one is the proactive approach and reactive, go surgically attacking where you can attack. where you see the red dots coming in, and just go and help them and just make them green, and you're good.
Thank you so much for all this advice. Amy, are we going with one more question, or should we finish?
Yeah, so yeah, Mayank, that was a great response. Definitely. Thanks for all the feedback. And I think for this last question, did anyone want to go off mute and ask a question live? Time for one more question. Any brave souls?
Come on, brave souls.
Hey, Mayank, Krishna here. Quick question. So this could be very organization specific, but then maybe you can help me with a perspective from the organizations that you've worked with. So we generally have a roadmap set and everyone has their own OKRs. And as a PM, you're probably having and working on your regular tasks. So when a crisis sets in, it's going to take up some bandwidth from the PM's regular schedule, some from the engineering manager, and some from the data scientists, and everyone as such. So do you kind of leave some bandwidth generally to, like foresee and like accommodate any such crisis that could come up at any point, or do you like make shifts to the roadmap based on the severity of the crisis?
Whoa, it's a loaded question for 1 minute. Answer is it's subjective. So you don't preempt a crisis and say 50% time will be devoted to crisis. You do say we will make the product better. So 10-20% time will be spent on solving for bugs, but they're not crisis. They're like bugs, right? So no, we never have the crisis buffer. However, if it's a brand new product and you know that things will break, then yes, you don't call it crisis then. You say that we have to improve the product's reliability as we move forward and we'll have the buffer. So you cannot preempt COVID-19 sitting in 2019 H2, right? It's impossible. H2, maybe you could, but anyways, but point is, you can't preempt few things. But once you're into it, you can create the buffer and then re-prioritize your roadmap and communicate that it's possible. A, B, C things may not be done. We'll have exact timelines on them once we are done with the crisis or with the problem we're solving, and then come revisit the roadmap. So I think setting the expectation is the right thing here. So yes, good question, but I would do it as an update and then come back and reprioritize. Yes, thank you.
At Salesforce, one thing we use is a KTLO, which is keep the lights on budget or time. So when we are planning as a PM for our product, we keep like 10-20% of our time, or depending on how the PM decides, and we allocate budget or headcount or engineering effort limit for KTLO as well, which is keep the lights on. So that's how we do it at Salesforce.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you so much for attending the event. Mara, would you want to give that challenge to our listeners before we drop off? Or let me do that. So thank you so much, Mayank and everyone to attending this call. One action item I learned a lot. One main thing I learned about from this talk was communication. Like literally over communicating is not a bad thing. If you learn something, write a post and tag Mayank and APMC with it. If you implemented one of the framework, the 5-pointer framework that Mayank discussed today, and you use it in your day-to-day life, share your story, tag Mayank, tag APMC, and let's interact and talk more about how we use our skills that we learned today for a crisis at work. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks, Mayank. It was a great session.
Thank you so much, guys. Take care. Good luck.